Hi everyone, my name is Carolyn Auger.
And I'm Steven Blagrave.
And I'm here today to talk to you about my book called With All My Heart. I published it under a pseudonym, Elizabeth McLennan, not by choice. The publishing company didn't want to publish it in my name because it was a true story. Although, it was something I wrote to help people. And I really felt it was important because it's a subject that a lot of people shy away from. And right now we're at a time when there's a lot of talk about sexual abuse and sexual assault, and at least people are coming out and telling their story. And mine is one of childhood sexual abuse. So that was why I really felt I wanted to share my story to help other people, give them a voice, and have people see that there is a happy ending, that not every case has to be a victim of childhood, and you don't have to suffer your whole life. So I am living proof that you can work through anything you decide to. And I wrote the book many years ago, and when I was writing it, you had some concerns, of course.
Yeah, well, because you were exposing so much, it's more than just childhood sexual abuse. There were a lot of other traumatic things throughout your life. And for me, I was just worried about you, about Carolyn, that she would be reliving everything again. And she was confident that it really wouldn't make a difference while she was going through the process. But as we'll play later, it really did change who she was while she was going through the process.
Yeah, it was, a lot of people asked if I wrote it as a cathartic experience, and I had already done a lot of work on myself, so rewriting it and reliving it, I did go into a little bit of a dark place. It was difficult to write, but again, I needed to. It was something bigger than me that I really felt I was put here and meant to write the story and speak out and help others who are suffering. And I know people are so silenced by childhood sexual abuse because it's something, there's so much associated with shame and guilt, and it's usually a family member that has sexually abused a child. And since I wrote the book, I can't believe the number of people that have spoken to me, and you were shocked because, his fear of me being so vulnerable, and yet when I wrote it and people were reading it, you were surprised.
Yeah, I was surprised because growing up, I never heard of anyone or knew of anyone who had gone through that, and then once Carolyn did write the book, I was shocked as how many people reached out to her who knew her growing up, and she knew them growing up, and they both had very similar experiences. And so for them, it was really, I guess, I'm looking for the word.
It helped them. It
helped
them feel not alone.
Yeah, and that they could speak to somebody about it and who would understand.
Yeah, because that is a big thing where, my memory was very suppressed. I had no memory of it until I was about 30 years old. And that in itself, when I would start telling friends, they'd kind of look at me like, really? So what happens to a child, when you're very young, you do end up with this kind of amnesia, like your body, it's such a trauma that the child, you kind of escape. So much so that you don't have a memory, but it's within you. And these are things I'm going to talk about in other videos about the healing process and things I've done to be the person I am today. And it's taken a lot of work. It's taken a lot of time. And I have Steve here in the video because I wanted to show that you can have a healthy marriage and a healthy relationship on all levels. But at first for us, it was difficult because there's triggers when you've been sexually abused.
Yeah, and we did go for help. We went to a psychologist who, for me, when these triggers would come out of nowhere, a reaction from Carolyn, I would take it personally. But dealing with the psychologist, she explained that for people who've gone through that type of abuse, the triggers really have nothing to do with me, it's with them. And that periodically it could happen, and just not to take it personally, which made all the difference in the world. And over the last number of years, I can't even remember the last time there was a trigger.
Yeah, it's been really, because when you do have a trigger, and for those of you who have experienced it, sometimes you don't even understand where the emotion is coming from, what's happening. And it's scary and it's emotional. you know, and I remember the psychologist said, because you kind of figured, well, you've written your book, you've done a lot of work, like, you should be okay. And again, like Steve said, the psychologist saying, no, like, triggers can happen through your whole life, and I'm proud and happy to say all the work I've done, like Steve said, I haven't had a trigger or, you know, many emotional outbursts because of it. There have been things with my body image, and again, I'll talk about that at another point, that, you know, there's residue left if you've been abused, and other things. There was some mental abuse as well growing up as a teenager. And the other thing that happens is it makes you more vulnerable, so that all this that I'm hearing now, like, my heart goes out to all the women and some men that are suffering, that have been sexually assaulted and harassed. And oftentimes it could be that maybe something like that happened to them as a child. And it kind of put, like, it happened to me growing up as a teenager, and you don't understand why you look, I always felt as though I had this label on me, yeah, abuse me, you know, violate me, and it wasn't the case. So it's very confusing when you are being victimized and you don't understand why you're a target. But we have this vulnerability about us, and the men that are, you know, doing this, they see that, and that's why they prey on these types of people and women. So I really, you know, I can't emphasize enough, read my story. It's not, I didn't write it in a dark, emotional way. It's more factual. I don't go into any details about the abuse because I didn't feel there was a purpose for that. It really is, and I was very happy. The feedback is mainly that it's inspiring. And again, I want to give hope to people to say, you know what, you just have to decide that you're going to let go of anger and hate and guilt and all those emotions to heal and to get to a place where you can live a happy and healthy life. So thank you, honey, for being such a rock for me all these years.
Thank you for having the courage to do it, you know, and yeah.
Well, your support.
And it's a happy ending because we're the happy end.
Yeah, and he's Timothy in the book. So if anybody would like a copy, authorhouse.com is the best place to find it. If you'd like, you can email me with allmyheart.em for Elizabeth McLennan @gmail.com. I would be happy to offer a signed copy. I'll give you instructions then as to how I'll get the book to you. And I really, you know, I send my love to all of you who have been a victim of childhood abuse, and I would really like to help you turn into a survivor like I have of childhood sexual abuse. Thank you for listening.